for use in weapons technology.
Russia said that they are going to stop the delivery of rocket engines. Is that for In 2017, you said the Third World War will be a war with or about AI. Now we have a very conventional war. Can AI help?
One of the reasons for World War III would be if one country has, or one place has advanced AI technology and other powers want it, or they're worried about some country gaining advanced AI that would give them a strong advantage in war, then they may be tempted to attack before the country that is developing the strong AI has that for use in weapons technology.
Russia said that they are going to stop the delivery of rocket engines. Is that for SpaceX a threat or an opportunity?
Well, SpaceX, we design and manufacture our own rocket engines, so we do not rely on any Russian components at all. This will affect...
For the United States of America, it is dangerous, or?
Well, Boeing and Lockheed have historically relied on the Russian RD-180 engine, which I should say, to be fair, is a great engine. They are hoping to move away from that in the future with engines from Blue Origin, but those engines are not yet ready for flight. There is also the Antares vehicle, which uses the RD-181, I believe. They will not be able to fly as a result.
With all your knowledge and products, services, you're almost a strategic weapon in modern warfare. How do you see your role in that context? Ukraine shows that there are opportunities, that you're needed.
Well, I certainly hope that SpaceX and Tesla are not forced to develop any kind of weapons technology. Obviously, we would only do such a thing if it was the last resort.
I mean it more in the metaphorical sense, not that you produce weapons, but that your knowledge can be used in order to make a difference in conventional warfare or in the warfare of the future, which is AI.
I think I can be helpful in conflicts. I mean, I try to take the set of actions that are most likely to improve the probability that the future will be good. And so, obviously, sometimes I make mistakes in this regard, so it's not like I always get it right, but I aspire to get it right. And so, whatever I think is most likely to ensure that the future is good for all of humanity, that's the actions that I will take.
A couple of months ago, we had an exchange about Ernst Jünger's famous
great book,
Storm of Steel.
Yep.
You were very fascinated by that book, which has been published roughly 100 years ago, about Jünger's experiences in the First World War. Why is that book so important for you?
Well, I read a lot of books, and for some reason I'm fascinated by war and history in general. I thought Jünger's book was an excellent first-hand account of World War I, and I mean, it's certainly, I think, a lesson taken from that book is we don't ever want to do that again. That's
interesting that that's good. That's good that you're saying that, because there's a big controversy around that book, and some people are saying this is glorifying war.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
And other people are saying it is a warning for not having a war ever again. So you're clearly in the second camp.
Well, I think those who don't like Jünger's book are basically, just because it's not 100% anti-war in the most extreme way, then therefore it's bad.
No, it's like a report. It's just neither
Yeah, he's just saying this is what
Positive
happened
nor
to me.
negative, it's just describing what happened in a terrible way.
Yes, I mean nobody's reading that book and say I want to do that. I want to do that. That sounds. I mean, he makes it very clear. It's a very terrible situation. But he also said like it's not like there's no good that comes out of even a terrible situation. There's some good that comes out of it, but it's overwhelmingly bad. It's just really interesting to I think read about history. I mean, learn the lessons of history such that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past.
Well, we know that saying history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and we see a rhyme
Yeah.
these days. Back to the bigger strategic picture. I mean, the terrible actions of Putin are to a certain degree also a result of strategic mistakes that Europe, particularly Germany, has made. The dropout of nuclear energy.
Actually, can I just say, I think it's very important that Germany not shut down its nuclear power stations. I think this is extremely crazy.
I just wanted to ask a question on that, because if we really want to reduce Putin's power and Europeans and Germany's dependence on Russian energy, this works only through decarbonization. So my question to you is, should we have even more nuclear energy in order to get faster independent from Putin and to resolve the climate issues?
I want to be super clear. In my opinion, Germany should not only not shut down the nuclear power plants, it should reopen the ones that shut down. And those are the fastest ones to restart. It's crazy to shut down nuclear power plants. Now, especially like if you're in a place where there's not natural disasters, you know, so like if you're maybe somewhere where there's severe earthquakes or tsunamis or something like that, it's more, you know, of a question mark as to, I mean, maybe, you know, but if there's not like massive natural disaster risk, which Germany does not have, then there's really no danger with the nuclear power plants.
And you don't see any safer alternatives that could have a similar effect? So solar and wind is not going to do it. Do you have any other ideas in mind about future energy policy?
I think long term, most of civilization's energy is going to come from solar, and then you need to store it with a battery because obviously the sun only shines during the day, and sometimes it's very cloudy. So you need solar batteries will be the main long-term way that civilization is powered. But between now and then, we need to maintain nuclear. I can't emphasize enough, please do not shut down the nuclear power plants, and please reopen the ones that have been shut. This is total madness to shut them down. I want to be clear, total madness.
Let's see whether your very clear words are heard in Europe and have consequences in Germany.
I'm trying to use the strongest words.
Yeah.
I would say this is a national security risk. It's not like, listen, playtime is over, okay? Obviously, playtime is over. This is it's a national security risk to shut these things down.
It's another bitter lesson of that war. It is not only an issue with regard to climate, it is very much an issue.
It's a national security risk, and it's a climate issue for you know, replacing. I think people don't understand, like, you know, coal power plants, because of their emissions, they cause a certain number of deaths every year, far more dangerous than nuclear power plants.
Do you have any other, let's say, unconventional ideas to deal with the challenge of climate change? Is it possible through the reduction of consumption and through new forms of energy to resolve it completely without China being completely aligned? Or should we have a different way to look at it? Some people are saying perhaps instead of just trying to avoid a warmer climate, we should focus on how to live with a warmer climate and adapt to that. Is that an option?
And I think we just want to take the set of actions that accelerate the transition to a sustainable energy economy. And that sustainable energy economy is going to be, like I said, primarily solar with wind. You absolutely need stationary storage batteries because of the intermittency of solar and wind. And then there will also be hydroelectric, geothermal, nuclear. These are all fine. And but we want to, you know, just move as quickly as we can to a sort of a solar electric economy. You know, and sometimes people say, oh, well, it's cloudy or something, you know, what about solar? And it's like, do plants grow? They're a solar-powered chemical reaction. If plants grow, you have solar power. Obviously. How do you think they grow? I think we just want to try to move there as quickly as possible. I do want to emphasize that while I think solar will be the main source of energy, it won't be everything. It will, like I said, there'll be nuclear, hydroelectric, geothermal, wind, and the faster we get there, the better for the world. It's really we're kind of running this climate experiment but it's an experiment where we know that's pointless because we know ultimately we will run out of coal and oil and gas. It's not going to last forever. And so we have to transition to something that is long-term in any case, because we'll run out of hydrocarbons to burn. So then let's just not run the experiment. But I'm much less of a climate alarmist than people might think. Although, of course, my words are taken, sometimes always amplified. But
how is it going to look like in 15 years? Better than today? Much better than today?
Oh, from a sustainable energy standpoint, much better. Yeah, much better.
So your bet is we are going to solve the climate issue?
Yes, absolutely. We will solve the climate issue. It's just a question of when. And I'd say like the fundamental good of Tesla should be thought of as by how many years did Tesla accelerate the sustainable energy revolution? That's the fundamental historic good of Tesla. Not whether it would occur. It would occur anyway. But by how many years can Tesla accelerate that transition?
You once told me about population that the decrease of reproduction rate, birth rate, is one of the most underestimated problems of our times.
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yeah, so most people in the world are operating under the false impression that there are too many people. This is not true. Earth could maintain a population many times the current level. And the birth rate has been dropping like crazy. And unfortunately, like we have these like ridiculous population estimates from the UN that need to be updated because they just don't make any sense. Really, you can just look at, say, what was the birth rate last year, how many kids were born, multiply that by the life expectancy, and say, okay, that's how many people will be alive, in the future. And then say, is the trend for birth rate positive or negative? It's negative. So that's the best case, unless something changes with the birth rate. I mean, you can look at, take Japan, for example. I think, I'm just going off memory here, but I think the population is roughly 110 million. But last year, if you take the number of children born times the life expectancy, which is 85 years, it's very impressive life expectancy, then Japan would have, I think, around 68 million people, roughly half of the current population. That does not tell the full story, because you would have an upside-down demographic pyramid. You already have an upside-down demographic pyramid where, a lot of old people, very few young people, and so how is this? That upside-down demographic pyramid is unstable.
Let's also hear why we'll need alternatives. You have recently presented Optimus,
Oh, yes.
human robot, and you shared great expectations what that could do for the world.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit your motivation? I assume it's not only about the first visit to Mars that could be done by Optimus. It is more than that, a game changer in AI. Could you share a little bit your vision?
Yeah, I mean, with respect to AI and robotics, I always approach these things with some trepidation because I certainly do not want to play a hand in anything that could potentially be harmful to humanity. Now, humanoid robots, they're clearly happening. I mean, you look at like Boston Dynamics, their demonstrations are better every year. So there will be humanoid robots. I mean, the rate of advancement of AI is very rapid. Even if Tesla stopped doing AI, I think we're still on a track to develop artificial general intelligence, meaning intelligence smarter than the smartest human.
Concretely, Optimus is going to be used in Tesla factories. That's one of the use cases. But what is the broader use case beyond Tesla?
Yeah, I mean, Optimus is a general purpose sort of worker droid. So the initial roles for Optimus would be in work that is repetitive, boring, dangerous, that kind of thing. Basically work that people don't want to do unless they're paid to do it.
Why has Optimus 2 legs? Just because it looks like a human being, or is it more practical? I thought 4 legs are better.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad. It reminds me of oil. Humanity has designed the world to interact with a bipedal humanoid with 2 arms and 10 fingers. So if you want to have a robot fit in and be able to do things that humans can do, it must be of roughly the same size and shape and capability.
The prototype is going to be ready by the end of this year. When is it a product that can be mass marketed?
Mass produced, that's the hard part. I mean, I don't know. I think we'll have something pretty good at the prototype level this year. And it might be ready for at least a moderate volume production, towards the end of next year.
Do you think that Optimus is going to play a role in our daily life, helping us in the household and things like that?
I think it probably would. Yeah, I think so. It's like I said, general purpose humanoid. Yeah. So.
You said the potential is bigger than the potential of Tesla. If that's true, then
For cars, yeah.
Then it must be really a mass market product.
Yeah.
Of our daily life.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I mean, say like what is an economy? Like what people get confused. Sometimes they think an economy is money. Money is a database for exchange of goods and services, and for time shifting the exchange of goods and services. Money is a database. Money doesn't have power in and of itself. Like you can run the thought experiment of if you're trapped on a remote island, shipwrecked on an island, and you've got $1 trillion in a Swiss bank account. It's worthless. You'd rather have a can of soup. So, you have all the Bitcoin in the world, and you're still going to starve. So, the actual economy is goods and services. So then, what limits the output of goods and services? That limiter is labor. Even capital is distilled labor. So the limiting factor for the economy is labor. And so if you address the limiting factor for the economy, then it's not clear that an economy in the traditional sense has any meaning anymore, because you have no constraint on goods and services. The only things that will be missing are things that have artificial scarcity. So that where we decide to make it scarce, like a particular piece of art or a particular home in this exact location or something like that, but there will be no shortage of goods and services.
But in a way, Optimus is also an answer to the problem of drop in birth rates. If we have not enough human people, we need more bots.
For Optimus,
to get the work done.
Optimus will be helpful with respect to dropping birth rates. But I mean, like I said, you have to say, like, if these things continue, then what happens? Humanity dies out? Is that what we want?
Or step by step replaced by artificial intelligence, human beings that Neuralink is empowering?
Well, yeah, I mean, Neuralink, in the short term, Neuralink is just about solving, brain injuries and spinal injuries and that kind of thing. So to be clear, for many years, Neuralink's products will just be helpful to someone who has lost the use of their arms and legs, or who has just a traumatic brain injury of some kind. That's what Neuralink will be useful for many years.
But in our last conversation, you said that Neuralink is among all your projects, for you, the most important one. Is that still true?
I know, I said it could be. I wouldn't say for sure it is the most important, but it could be the most important, in that there is a long-term mitigation to artificial intelligence, which is that we could effectively merge with artificial intelligence by improving the speed of interaction between our cortex and our tertiary layer, which is already silicon. We're already a sort of a 3-level intelligence creature. The base level is the limbic system, the sort of animal brain or reptile brain, essentially, the sort of fundamental, the animal or reptile brain. And then there's the cortex, which the cortex, by the way, is largely in service to the reptile brain.
Could you imagine that one day we would be able to download our human brain capacity into a Optimus?
Yes. I think that is, I'm not saying this is, I think it is possible, I think, to do that. It is possible.
Which would be a different way of eternal life, because we would also download our personalities into a bot.
Yes, we could download the things that we believe make ourselves unique. Now, of course, if you're not in a body anymore, there's definitely going to be some difference there, So, but as far as preserving our memories, our personality, if you will, I think we could do that.
The moment of singularity that Ray Kurzweil has, I think, predicted for 25 is approaching fast. Do you think the timeline is still realistic?
Well, I see this as not, I'm not sure this is a singularity, meaning like I'm not sure there's a very sharp boundary. I mean, already there's so much compute that we outsource. Our memories are stored in our phones and computers with the pictures and video. Computers and phones amplify our ability to communicate, enabling us to do things that would have been considered magical and had you burned at the stake in maybe 300 years ago. You can have two people to have a video call basically for free from two parts of the world, on opposite sides of the world. It's amazing. So we've already amplified our sort of human brains massively with computers. And I think an interesting ratio to roughly calculate would be the amount of compute that is digital divided by the amount of compute that is biological. And how does that ratio change over time? And there's so much digital compute happening so fast that that ratio is increasing rapidly.
Talking about speed, you have the vision that one day Starship could be able to get from A to B in 30 minutes all around the globe. Is that correct? And if so, what would the time frame for this vision? It's like a global super taxi. You can just go from San Francisco to Nairobi.
Yeah. I mean, the landing will be loud. So you'd want to probably be connecting, cities that are next to oceans or seas, such that you can land maybe, far enough offshore that the landing noise is not disturbing to people.
But coast to coast, that would be a realistic option.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like an ICBM, but change the option package from nuclear to landing. Delete the nuke, add landing.
Elon, you have solved so many problems of mankind and presented so many solutions. I'm surprised that one topic seems not to be too fascinating for you, and that is the project of longevity and increased lifespan significantly. Why are you not passionate about that? You're not personally interested in living longer?
I mean, I don't think we should try to have people live for a very long time. That it would cause ossification of society, because the truth is, most people don't change their mind; they just die. And so, if they don't die, they will be stuck with old ideas, and society won't advance. I think we already have quite a serious issue with the gerontocracy, where the leaders of so many countries are extremely old. Look, I mean, in the U.S., it's, very, very ancient leadership. And it's just impossible to stay in touch with the people if you're, at the, if you're like many generations older than them. And the founders in the U.S., they put minimum ages for political office, but they did not put maximum ages, because they did not expect that people would be living so long, but they should have. Because you really want, in order for a democracy to function well, the leaders must be reasonably in touch with the bulk of the population. And if you're too young or too old, you can't say that you would be in touch.
Is there a kind of ideal age, and how old would you like to get?
Well, I think for political leadership, I think you want to be, ideally within 10 or at least 20 years of the average age of the population. This doesn't sound too crazy. For me, I don't know. I mean, I certainly would like to maintain health for a longer period of time. But I'm not afraid of dying. I think it will come as a relief. So,
although you may not be able to see the vision of SpaceX come true in your life.
Well, I'd like to live long enough to see that.
being at a net worth of 230 billion, roughly, being perceived as the richest person on Earth.
Well, I think Putin is significantly richer than me.
You really do, yeah?
Yes. Well, I mean, I can't go invade countries and stuff. I believe. I mean, there's like some old quote that from, was it Crassus or that you're not really rich unless you can afford a legion.
Do you know John Law?
I don't know.
John Law used to be the richest person on Earth 300 years ago.
Okay.
He was a poker player, a gambler, homme de femme. He was the biggest art collector on Earth, so a lot of superlatives.
Wow.
In the end, he went bankrupt.
What? That's a pretty far to fall.
Did you ever thought about that option, that something could go wrong and that you could one day lose everything?
I mean, there's been many times where I expected to lose everything. Not, I mean, who starts a car company and a rocket company expecting them to succeed? Certainly not me. I thought they both had less than a 10% chance of success. And frankly, I wasn't wrong in that in 2008, we had the third failure of SpaceX, and if the fourth launch had failed, SpaceX would be dead in 2008. We had no money for a fifth launch. And for Tesla, Tesla's been on the verge of bankruptcy many times. And we closed the financing round in 2008, because remember, at the end of 2008, General Motors and Chrysler were going bankrupt, and Ford was almost bankrupt. So imagine trying to raise money for an electric car startup while General Motors is going bankrupt. And people were angry that I even asked. But we were able to just barely raise enough money to squeak by and close the financing round for Tesla on the last hour of the last day that it was possible in Christmas Eve 2008. And if we had not closed that financing round then, it would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas.
So you know what you're talking about.
Yes.
This John Law got
if I
famous.
go bankrupt, fine, whatever. I don't care.
John Law got famous with the sentence, "L'économie, c'est moi." The economy is me.
Wait, is this guy French or English? Scottish, you said.
Yeah,
So
but
he
this
had
sentence,
like a nice turn of phrase in French or something?
he worked in France, and his main language then was France. So, l'économie, c'est moi. So the question is, do you see any danger that one day not only big platforms like Google or Facebook could face much more rigid regulation, but that Elon Musk could be regulated because of
regulated
being too big?
What? Actually, as it is, SpaceX and Tesla are regulated very heavily.
But I mean that there could be a discussion that it's just too much in too many areas.
I have too much power personally or something?
Well, I mean, if you build in many sectors that are absolutely crucial to society, very dominant.
See you on Mars, suckers. Just kidding.
That's the option then. Yeah. Okay. So one way to avoid that is to be a good citizen, and you are, and you have your own foundation. Could you tell us a little bit about your projects, what your foundation is going to do in the future, what your priorities are to donate money and to improve the world beyond your business activities?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to emphasize that SpaceX and Tesla are fundamentally intended to improve the probability that the future is good. So this will do more. They will do more than anything I do from a charitable standpoint in terms of usefulness to humanity. I mean, Tesla is about accelerating sustainable energy. Obviously, that's important. SpaceX is about making life multiplanetary, and of course, providing a global internet through Starlink. These are fundamental goods that the good of those companies will far exceed anything that I do from a charitable standpoint. And I have to say, it is very difficult to give away money effectively